Hi. All right, we're going to be going over assignment 09, edit headshots. And what we're going to be working is in Photoshop. And we're going to use, for our data, we're going to use 08 headshots. Now we're going to go ahead and edit those. Let's go ahead and review the assignment first. So we're going to take the images from assignment 08 and place them on a one-page setup, one page per setup. There's going to be no white areas that can be seen on the page. We're going to have a full bleed on the page. That also means, what does a full bleed mean? It means that there are no, the images go all the way to the edge of the page. Make sure to use math and measure out your arrangements. So you have to use math, or at least think about math and get the setup just right. Because remember, there's not going to be any white space and we're going to use a full bleed. You're also going to title the lighting setup and number on each page. Here are the lighting setups we use for assignment 08. We have front, side lighting with reflector, high side, top lighting, under lighting, and back lighting. Our canvas is going to be 8.5 by 11 and a DPI of 150. Our files names are going to be 01 all the way to 07. 01 represents front lighting. 07 represents back lighting. 04 is high side or Rembrandt lighting. You're going to submit 7 files. Here we have 2 examples. First, we have Shakti Sanchez, front lighting 01. So we have the photograph, we have the diagram, a handwritten diagram, and then we have the light setup, where the light is located. Second example, we have Fabian Aguilar. The first photograph is of the first image is the photograph under lighting, the diagram of where the light was, and then the setup of how it was set up. Let's go ahead and work on creating some examples for you guys to follow along. So I'm going to work in Bridge. I have our setups, our student examples here, and the first one I'm going to use is Alexandria. So thank you, Alexandria. You are our first example. So here we have Alexandria's side lighting. And then here is her diagram. So I'm going to put that right beside it so I can have it available. And here is the setup, the side light, which really cool models, by the way, Alexandria. I'm going to go ahead and select those 3 images and then press Command O to open, or I could go File, Open. And here are our files in Photoshop. Now let's review the requirement. Our canvas is going to be 8.5 by 11 at a DPI of 150. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new file, or a new file. So File, New, and 8.5, I'm going to choose Print, Letter, and it's 8.5 by 11. Now, the one thing that I want to be aware of, and you want to look at these, is I have 2 examples. We have Fabian, who photographed on landscape or horizontal, and we have Shakti, who did a vertical or portrait view. Now let's review what Alexandria did. She has hers on horizontal or landscape portrait. And I'm telling you, this is easier just to do it this way. So I'm going to do the setup where I have the photograph on the top because it's horizontal, and the diagrams and the setup on the bottom. If you had a portrait view, I would recommend that you do it in horizontal or landscape portion, it's going to be easier mathematically just to do it that way. So we're going to use vertical setup. So let's go back to Photoshop. And we already have it on the vertical. Now remember, the resolution is going to be 150 dpi. We don't need to have, this is not a masterpiece. We don't need to have a large DPI resolution. You're not even going to print these images. So I'm going to press create. And let's go ahead and review what we have. So we have Alexandria's photograph, and there's a couple of things that I want to look at first. And one is the image size and the DPI. For this, I'm really concerned about is the DPI. So I go to image size, and I'm going to click on resample, and I'm going to choose a resolution of 150 because currently it's at 72. And then I press OK. And all I have to do now is to select it, which is Command A for all, or edit. Command A for all. So I don't know where it is. I've used this key so often. Command A for all, edit, copy, Command C. Then I'm going to go back to my original image or my canvas that I'm going to be submitting, and I do edit, paste, or Command V. And we have this image, and it's ginormous. It's ginormous. Now, our canvas is 8.5 by 11. We have two options that we can do. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, which is Command -sign, or you could use the zoom tool on the left, which is a zoom tool, or quick key Z. And I'm going to go to Edit, Transform Scale. And you can see this image is really big and it's over our canvas size, but I have it scaled and it's proportionately scaled. So all I have to do is just take it in a little bit and adjust it on the top. To accept that transform, I just double click on the center. Now I'm going to zoom back in, which is Command plus. And I need to do some math. So I'm going to go ahead and pull from my rulers. I'm working in inches. It's easier to work in inches because we're in the West and we love inches, although the rest of the world is more amazing and they use metrics, which makes a lot of sense. If, for instance, your ruler, Command R to bring the rulers and Command R to bring it back. You can also go under Window, and where are you, rulers? It should be View Rulers, Command R. So I'm going to keep that. If for some reason you are not in inches, click on the corner on the ruler. Oops, cancel. I want to do it another way. I don't want to double click it. Right click and select inches. Now you know when I double clicked, I did have the rulers come up, and it also the units came up in the preferences, and I have rulers. So either way, now I need to do some math. I always, FYI, I'm not a big math person. I always try to do a workaround or make it easier. We have 8.5 by 11, which is 8.5, so 4 1/4. So I'm going to go and pull up my ruler. Now it's not 4.5, but 4 1/4. And this is what we're going to be placing in this image. And we need to do some math to figure out what the size of this box is. If I grab my ruler on the upper left corner and pull down, it'll reset my ruler. So now I can see I'm 4.5 by, and let me just pull this ruler down, by 5¼ smidge. I'm a little bit off. I want you to remember that. So I'm going to go ahead and write it down for a minute. Just give me a second to write it down. So I'm at 4¼ by 5¼ so it's about, to make it easier, 4 by 5. It's a 4 by 5. That's what I'm going to be cropping and putting in here and selecting. So let's go back to the setup or the drawing, and I'm going to use my cropping tool, and I want to set up my custom height, width, resolution. And we want it 4 by 5. Mathematically, it's just easier to think about that. We can make our adjustments in a minute. And it's going to be a vertical. So, oh, not that one, not there yet. And now the problem is the way Alexandria drew hers. We want a vertical, but we have all of this stuff. Sodalite. And so I'm going to have to crop out her writing. And do about, if I zoom out, I'm going to have that empty space. And we're going to cut out a little bit of her notes, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and crop it. And then I'm going to Command A, Command C, and then go back to my image and Command V to paste it. Now using the Move tool on the left side, but you know the requirement, let's look at the requirement. Full bleed, no white areas on the page. Okay, so no white areas, full bleed. So I'm going to have to scale it and make it a little bit larger. So like we did before with the top photograph, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Scale. We don't want to skew because then it'll be proportionately off. So here I am. And then to accept it, double click in the center. So now we have the diagram. Now we need the setup. Let's see how she photographed the setup. So here, this one's really hard because she photographed it on the horizontal. But we're going to try our best. So let's go back to the crop tool. It already has a preset for us because it remembers. We're doing a 4 by 5 at 150 DPI. And we want to see, we have the nephew and her niece, and we see a bit of the camera. We can't see it all in the setup because we want to have, it'd be nice if it was a little bit, but we also want to utilize the entire space. So I'm going to push it around, and all I have to do is just grab right in the middle of our frame. So we have the camera and we have the light. And I'm going to like that. And then I do Command All, Command A, Command Copy, and then Command V to paste it in. And once again, it is not in the right setup. I mean, there's white space and we need a full bleed. So we go Edit, Transform, Scale, and double click, and then there we are. The next thing we need to do, let's read the requirement. title, the lighting setup, and number on each page. This is side light 02. So I'm going to use the text tool on the side toolbar, or quick key T for text, and we're going to do it on the horizontal. I'm going to choose up on top. I want to use white because I'm going to put it over here on the top part. And let me go ahead and let me pull up my layers so I can see that. I want to make sure. So here are our layers. And it's going to be about, I would say, an 18. I'm going to use my grabby hand, holding down the space bar, and Command plus to zoom in a little bit more. And I'm ready to write. Now, before I even do that, I'm going to do Command Z. Or actually, I'm going to delete that. Is I want to choose my font. I want something that is going to be easy to read. It doesn't have to be fancy. You want it simple and you want it clear and easy to read. I'm going to use Arial, and I'm not going to use italics. I'm going to use bold. So choose a font that's easy to read. You don't want anything fancy. Okay, so here we go again. 02. I'm going to have 2 spaces between, and it's side lighting. And I'm going to zoom out, Command 0, and there it is. So now we have it completed. And what I need to do too is view, and I want to hide my guides. I'm going to get rid of my guides now. Clear guides. I'd want to hide it. I just can't remember what the key is for that. I could clear them and they'll be rid of them. We don't really need them anymore. I'm just going to clear them. I'm looking for any white space. I'm making sure it's a full bleed. It looks really good. Now I'm going to save it. File, save as, and we're going to save, I like to save on my computer, and I'm going to go ahead and find your file, or where I'm keeping my files. So this is photo 3. Let's see, fall, edit, and I'm going to put this in the PSD file. This is 02 side lighting. EH for edited headshots, underscore last name, underscore first name. You don't have to write .psd because it automatically will do that. And then make sure you're in photograph format, Photoshop, and press save. Okay, so that was our first one. Let's see if I can find an example in Bridge of a vertical setup. So we can do the same thing, and this will help you if you're doing a different setup. So I know we have, let's see if I can find, we have Shakti's. We used her earlier as an earlier example. And we're going to do this one, which is titled 05. Let's check it. Top lighting. So we're going to do 05. Let's go back to Bridge. So here is our 05 top. And I'm just going to move this over here so I can make it easier for me to see it. Here is her photograph of the setup of the top lighting. And then I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like maybe there might be out of order. This looks like it's back. And that's front. This is also back. I mean, it's kind of hard, right? Let's put them side by side. They look almost exactly the same. I'm going to go with this one. It's hard because it's like you don't see a hand on top of that. Maybe, so we're going to do that one. So let's go back. And I'm going to put that over there on the top. That's just for help me organize which ones I'm going to open. So here are my 3 files. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select them. Before I do that, I'm going to go back to Photoshop and get rid of all the other files that I already have opened. I just want a clean slate. I don't want to have, we don't need to save anything. Okay, so I just want to make sure that when I do open them, I'm not overwhelmed with too many files. So here they are. I'm going to select the first one, hold down the Shift key, and then select all 3. Then all I have to do is press Command O to open, and it'll automatically open it in Photoshop. Now remember, Shakti photographed on portrait, but when we do our layout, we're going to do a horizontal layout so that visually it looks a little bit more pleasing and, you know, a lot more exciting. We want to utilize the photograph to its full potential. So let's go back to Photoshop. And once again, we're going to make a horizontal setup. So I go File, New, Print. It's 8.5 by 11. This time the orientation is going to be landscape, and our resolution is going to be 150 dpi. I'm going to zoom out, pressing Command -sign, move my layers out of the way. We don't need that right now. First thing I'm going to do is put the photograph where we want it. Now, and here it is. I can just go ahead and copy it and paste it without checking the DPI, and let's see what happens, because there's a problem, and we'll make it happen and we'll see it. Command A to select all, Command C to copy, Command V to paste. This is a ginormous photograph because you're going from, if we look at Shakti's original photograph, image size, it's a 100% at 72 dpi, and we have inches. It's 42 inches by 56 inches at 72 dpi. So it's humongous, but it's also at a low resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and change it 150, and now it's 20 by 26. All right. But let's go back to this and try to fix it if you don't want to change the resolution to your file. And so what I'm going to do is go Edit, Transform, Scale. And I have to zoom out. So Command -sign, Command -sign. It's huge. It's a huge photograph. And there it is. So you can change the resolution or not. And here's the photograph. And we have to, I'm going to check my image size. Image size. We're at 150 dpi at 11 by 8.5. And I press OK. Just double checking. Now, I need to do some math. So I'm going to pull out the bar on the left side. 8.5 by 11. Half of 11 is 5.5. So I'm going to pull out my ruler and go to 5.5, which, oh my God, there's a problem. Let's see, what is the problem? 8.5. Oh, that's, duh. All right, it's actually because we're doing the other direction, so it's 8.5, so it's 4.25. And it don't have to be, this is 4.5, 4.25. about right there. Let me go ahead and measure it again. Okay, so we know, and we're gonna round down, or not round up, round down. So it's gonna be 4 by 5. It's gonna make it easy for us mathematically. 4 by 5. We're gonna transform again. So we got this one. Here we can see the light. So I go edit, 4 by 5, and we want to see the setup. So here's the light. And that looks really good. Double click it to accept the crop. Command A to select it. Command C to copy it. Let's go back. We don't want to crop anything here. Command V to paste it. So let's see, where am I going to put it? I'm going to put it on the top. And there's a reason logistically why I want it on the top. There's a real reason why. Because we're going to have, you can see we have the white space on the right side. And we have it overlapping our guide, but that's okay because I am going to copy something right on top of that layer. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Scale. And there we are. We want to see the light setup. That's the most important part. So it's okay if we crop, the middle of his chest. And then to accept it, that's all right. So now, let me just check my math. Gosh, that's 4.5. Let me zoom in. Plus, and let me move my guide again. That's 4.5. So 4.25. Let me count my little, this 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it should be this one. Let me zoom out. Okay. And move that up a little bit. It's automatically cropping on top. The top serves as a mask. All right, so 4 by 5. All right, let's go back and get that diagram. And there it is. So using the cropping tool, accept it, Command A, Command C, and because I used the cropping tool before, it still automatically remembers. We don't want to use the cropping tool. We want to place it, or actually paste it, not place it, Command V. And we're using our blue lines for our guide. I'm going to make sure our snap is View, Snap to Guide. So it should snap now. There it goes. I need to transform. So Edit, Transform, Scale. Now the problem is the way that I cropped it. And how am I going to make this work? So when I extend it out, I'm losing the camera. And I want to keep the camera as much as I can. So that's not going to work for us. So I need to have a crop, a closer crop. Let's go back to the setup, bring up window, history, go back to the crop. And let's see, pull up the cropping tool again. If I make it larger and not as tight, because before I was a really close crop, that'll give me more leeway when I go back. Let's see what my crop looks like on that one. So it's super tight. Let's try a looser crop. Okay, and push it up a little bit because we don't want any white space. Let's try this one. I'm going to crop it again. Command A for all, Command C to copy. And let's turn off that one. Command V to paste it. And here we are. Now look at all the space I have to work with when I scale. So then make sure that's there and go Edit, Transform, Scale. Now once again, there's many ways to do exactly the same thing. You don't have to do it my way. If you feel like you want to do it another way, go for it. Photoshop is an amazing program where you can do the same thing at least 2 or more different ways. So I'm going to select it. And this is, let's check the setup, top lighting 05. So I use the text tool or T, quick key T. This time I'm going to change the color of my font to black because we have a white background. I'm still going to use Arial Bold. And I know I knew the number a minute ago, top 05. I'm going to zoom in, Command plus to zoom in. And type it in 05. I like to have a couple of spaces between. Top lighting. Use the move tool to move it around. And that's totally fine for me. Command 0 to zoom out. Command minus sign to zoom out a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and remove my crop lines now to make sure I don't have any white space. So view, snap guides. I thought there used to be a thing to hide guides. Let me see if I can find it. So it's not coming up. Get help on hide guides. Let's check it out. Guides, help. View show guides. View show guides. Oh, okay. Let's just try it out. View. I don't see it. Choose view show. Oh, shoot, there it is, right there. Show guides. Oh wait, that's not what I wanted. That's a grid. Let's get rid of the grid and let's do it again. Sorry, you guys. Show guides. Ah, there it is. I knew there was there somewhere. All right, so it looks good. Yeah. So then we're going to go ahead and save it. File, save as. open on your computer. This is going to be 05 for me. Underscore EH for edited headshot, underscore last name, underscore first name. Photoshop. I don't have to write PSD, it automatically will come up. What I did is I just copied it. All I did was click onto my file and it automatically will change the names. But we're going to do a 05. I don't want to override any other files when I press save. All right, so now let's go ahead and review what we have. In Bridge, we have our edited headshots, and we have other examples that I've used before. So we actually have 4 files. And what I want to do now is to do a script, an automate, so I could convert all these Photoshop files into a JPEG. So instead of me going individually and going File, Save As, converting it to a JPEG, I want to do a script. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this folder. Let's see, I'm going to move it to the trash. And I'm going to press OK. So now my JPEGs are gone because I want to do the script. And so I'm going to go File, Image Processor, and you get this box comes up. You're going to select your folder, which is our Photoshop PSD folder, and I'm going to press Open. And I'm going to press Save in Same Location. Now, I could put it in another location or in another folder structure, but I'm just going to click Save in Same Location. I'm going to use the quality of 12, and I'm going to press Run. And what this is doing is converting my PSD files into JPEGs. Now, when I open up my folder, here's the JPEGs right there. And I'm going to pull it out so that it's on the same structure. And here are all of my files in JPEGs ready to be submitted into Canvas. All right. Thanks, you guys.